Pollinators such as bees, flies, butterflies, and hummingbirds are declining both in numbers of species and individual animals. Multiple threats appear to be causing these declines, including habitat loss, pesticide use, and climate change.
We certainly know that there are native bees at risk. Specifically, the rusty patch bumblebee we know is listed as endangered, and especially monarchs. Monarchs are really characteristic and charismatic, and people remember seeing them in their childhood and now are fairly uncommon. We are seeing far fewer insects even splattered on our windshield than we did 20 years ago.
Monarch butterfly migration has dropped 80% in the last 20 years, and since the 1970s, the rusty-patched bumblebee has disappeared from almost 90% of its historic range. Canada's network of rights-of-way, roadsides, power corridors, transmission lines, and pipelines are often mown and sprayed with pesticides throughout the growing season, which have devastating effects on our native pollinators. The fact is, clipped, non-native grasses do not provide the food and shelter that pollinators need to survive.
If you mow your lawn, you're mowing everything down, so there's no chance for anything to flower, and it's the same on roadsides. When you convert it to something that's more natural, like a native meadow with a bunch of different species growing, then you have less space for a lot of those weedy plants. We have a couple of demonstration gardens that we've created with native pollinator-friendly plants and provide habitat for them as well. It also acts as sort of a seed source for the rest of our property.
The Canadian Wildlife Federation and many others are doing everything they can to change how these rights-of-way passages are managed. By converting open roadsides and pipeline passages into wildflower meadows, we are recreating the pollinators' pathways that once covered this land.
I learned about monarchs this year, really in depth. And you know what? It was quite heartwarming to release 3 monarchs from my finger this year that flew all the way to Mexico. Yeah, so that really triggered me to start a strategic mowing practice. And we did that this year in various spots throughout the township. So we'd mow a couple kilometers, we'd leave a swath of milkweed. And milkweed, as I come to find out, is a catalyst for a monarch to survive.
CWF has asked us to be a part of their program and start sharing our lessons learned and our strategies to getting to this goal of habitat restoration. We also want to start sharing our message for other municipalities to learn from and sharing our story and our strategies to how to get there and what you can do as a municipality to improve pollinator habitat.
During her lobbying efforts to convince the first bee city in Canada to sign on, and I'm speaking about founder and executive director of Bee City Canada, Shelley Candle, she was quoted as saying, I love this, "It's really about beautifying the municipality. Let's look at grass as a desert. Let's look at dandelions as pollinator food. Let's think of things differently." So I'd like to welcome Shelley Candle to the microphone.
I know we love the honeybee, but it's really not the only bee around. Most bees don't sting. They don't make honey. They don't live in hives. They live in the ground. They live solitary lives. But they're all important pollinators. They're all important for our survival. And even though, insects are pretty much invisible, we really don't pay attention to them unless they bite us or sting us or annoy us. But they're what makes this world the place we live in. It greens the world. Without them, there's no food for us or mammals.
And one critical way that we're talking about of supporting them is to provide good quality meadow habitat. So native wildflower blooms, such as black-eyed Susan, purple aster, and wild bergamot, support our wild pollinator species. So when you create habitat for a monarch, you're creating habitat for all other pollinator species, including bees, flies, beetles, moths, wasps, and all others. Some of them are also at risk.
Give this to you and I can read this. It says, BCD Canada declares that Augusta Township Having adopted on June 15th, 2020, the resolution passed by council and signed by Mayor Malanka, has completed all of the requirements and declared to be a bee city, the 40th in Canada. Woohoo!
There's a lot of families, there are a lot of people who care about the environment. Let's see what we can do here.
It challenges you to ask the question, not how can we be sort of less bad to the environment, but actually what would it look like if we were being good or great?
Being here in the room today and listening to the stories, I really see what's possible with humans and humanity.
New maps show 40% of Earth's land surface is now utilized for housing, farming, and roadways, revealing the extent to which human beings have changed the face of the planet. As land stewards, we can choose to invite life back into our neighborhoods by providing a healthy habitat for our native pollinators.